Welcome back to another Java fundamental class. I'm Manibhushan D'Souza, Assistant Professor in Computer Science Department at Dr. P. Dayananda Pai, P. Satish Pai, GFGC Mangalore. And today we are going to continue from the point where we left out in our previous class. So let's start with the literals. What is the meaning of saying literals? Literals are nothing but they are constants. So when you declare something constant, in Java, the other way of saying it as a literal. In the different data types, we have different types of literals. For example, we have this integer, float, Boolean, character, and string literals. Let's look at each and every one of them. So we start with the integer literals. So integer literals are nothing but they are whole numbers. For example, 1, 2, 3, whatever number that you type when you assign a value to a variable, they are all literals. So if you really didn't get it, so you know that you can create a variable integer x. And for this, you give some values. Now, when we say literals, I am talking about this value. So this is the literal that I'm talking about. This is a constant. So x here, you know that it's a variable, it can take different value, but this value 1, 2, 3, 4 is a constant, and that is in our case is a whole number, and that's why it's a integer literals. Okay. When we create integer literals, all integer literals are generally considered as integer values, and we know that in Java the integer takes 32-bit of space. And when we talk about integer literals, they could be decimal, that is, they can have base 10, or they could be octal, or they could be hexadecimal, that is the base 16. So, in order to represent the octal value, we put a leading 0 in front of the value. Okay. So if at all you want to represent 5, this will be decimal 5, and if you write if you write 05, it's going to be a octal number because I am adding a 0 in front of that 5. So let's look at this in a simple example. I'm going to switch back to my NetBeans, and I have my NetBeans running over here. I'm going to start a new project. By now you are familiar to how to create a new project. Go to this file and then say a new project, and then you go to this Java application. I'm going to select a new application. I'm going to give it a name, and I'm going to call it as literal example. That's all I need to do. I'm going to just finish it off. The NetBeans is going to create the needful things for me, and I'm there at the main function over here where we were writing some codes. Suppose if you create int x, and I'm going to put a literals. So if I write equal to 05, what is the meaning of this? So if I write s out, and if I print the value is, and if I put x, what is it going to look like? Now this is an obvious one. I'm going to just run this, and it must be 5, whether it is decimal or whether it is octal, it's going to be 5 itself. Now let's go to the next one. What if I make this one as 0.09, and what will happen? Now the minute I did it, you notice that you get an error here. Whether I run it or not, you're going to get a error message, and it just says that integer number is too large. Now some of you may be wondering, what is this integer? Can't it take just 9 value? So integer, I said it is a 32-bit storage. Can't Java store a 09 inside a 32-bit storage area? So what is the error? Let's run it, and I'm going to show you an error. What is that? It's really happening over here. I'm going to say run anyway, and I have to get a exception here, and the exception just says that compatible erroneous tree type and so on and so forth. You really get a very nasty problem, and it just says that literal example and so on and so forth, where it just tries to confuse you more than what you can understand. What's the problem? So problem is very simple. We know that, at least most of you are familiar. So when we say octal, octal starts from 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 and 7. That's all which is there in octal. So it consists of totally 8 number of symbols, and the symbols are from 0 to 7. Now if you really didn't get it, at least you will know this one. Binary contains only 2 symbols, zeros and ones. You don't have 2 in binary because binary contains only 2. Similarly, you don't have 8 in octal or 9 in octal because octal contains only up to 7. So what I did in my program was I went here to my program and I just said to the Java that assign 9. So it just says that it's not the problem with the integer, it's the problem with the octal. It just says that octal can't have that thing. So can I have 7 here? It's there is no problem. Can I have 8 here? Just say 8 is also not allowed. Octal 0 to 7, so you can have only 0 to 7 over here. So why did I give this example is some of you at least will get this problem in your lifetime, wherein you are going to store the numbers in this format like 0 0 0 1 0 2, like that you're going to store, and suddenly your program crashes and you really don't know what is going on with your program because this thing would have gone to certain extent that somewhere it will start going to this value 08 09 and so on. When it goes to 09 or 08 or 09, the octal representation of that value is not valid, so your program is going to stop. So be careful. Do not try to append 0 in front of a number, because when you do that, Java automatically thinks that it's an octal. Now let's go to the next part, and that is for the hexadecimal. So for hexadecimal, you start with the 0 and append it with the x. So either capital X or small case is going to go fine. And again, for those who are not very familiar, hexa means totally 16 digits will be there. So you have from 1 to 10 symbol, that is the first 10 symbols are from 0, 1, 2 and so on up to 9. You get the same symbol. After that, either in small case or in capitals, you get A, B, C, D up to EF. So I hope everybody is familiar with that thing. Let's look at that one in action. Again, everybody is familiar, I suppose. So if you declare a integer variable x, and then if you try to assign a value to this x, say I'm going to say 0, this is 0, x a. So it's going to be valid. So what is the equivalent value of it? If you run this, what will be the output? And you know very well it is going to be 10. Why it is going to be 10? A is 10. Let's recall again. How did we get that? So 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Again 6 it came. 7, 8, 9. After that, what is the symbol? A, B, C, D and so on. So A in hexadecimal is equivalent to 10 in decimal, and that's what it is trying to show. So this is how it really goes. So if you want any other symbol also, you can represent it. By the way, can I represent bad here, BAD? Is it a valid symbol? Yes, bad is valid, and I hope this was done in your digital fundamentals. What is the binary equivalent of bad? and this is the binary equivalent or the decimal equivalent of the bad. Again, let me tell you, some of you may be, I'll go back to this octal story over here. So in the octal, I can represent, if it is octal, I must start with the octal. I'm talking about octal, not the hexadecimal. If it is an octal, can I represent 555 in octal? It's completely valid. Can I write 558? It's not valid because 8 is not a valid symbol. Can I represent 557? It is valid. Remember, it is not just one number. You can have any number provided it is a valid octal number. And also, it does not exceed the integer limit. That's the other thing that you must understand. So integer, I have shown you the limit, the range, the minimum and maximum for integer. It should not exceed. Again, for some of you who are really interested to know, is there something called as a negative octal? So do you have a negative octal in Java? The answer is yes. So this is the negative value of that. Again, for those who are still more interested, can I have the negative value of bad? So I have put X there, and you know very well, whenever I put, you can put a small case or capital, it's up to you. Whenever I put this X 0 followed by X, it just means to say that I'm using hexadecimal. I run this one, what's an binary, the decimal equivalent of the hexadecimal value minus bad is this one. So hope you get that idea there. Let's go ahead with the other part. The next one is, even though we are using the integer, by default the values are considered to be integer. You can also store long. In order for you to say that a given number is long, you just have to append it with the L at the end. So either you can use the lowercase or uppercase letter. So let's go ahead and let's do that thing. I'm going to declare a variable of type long. So I'm going to say long, say y, and I want it to be represented as 100. I can represent a very large number like 1 2 3 4 and something like that, and it is not an integer. So I just say to the Java that this is a long literal. So as simple as that. So I am telling the Java that this is a long decimal value. If I print this one, what will be the output of this? So if I go here and then try to print the value of y, how is it going to look like? So if I run it, I'm going to get the same thing. And I think if I put it to integer, let me zoom it out. And if I just try to change int and then try to assign L, it's not going to work. Now I'm going to just say 12 here, or maybe less than this value, and you know very well this is definitely an integer, but Java is complaining to you. And what is the complaint is, I just made it as L. L means it's a long number. So long is, you know very well, 64-bit, and I'm trying to store it in integer, which is a 32-bit. Again, for those who are not really getting this idea, just to say that when you said that this part is L, it just means to say that it is a long value which has to be stored in a 64-bit location. Now, when you say this part is int, it just means to say that this is a 32-bit location. And what Java thinks that even though it is 123, Java thinks that this is going to be a very large value. And when you try to store it in a smaller location, some of the values are lost. So you may lose some values here, and that is why it just says that incompatible, and there is a possible of loss of data in the type conversion. That is why it says I will not accept this. So it just says that when you try to convert a long integer to a integer, or a long to integer, the data may be lost. In this case, the data may not be lost, but if you have very large number and then you try to store a 64-bit into a 32-bit, definitely you're going to lose something. So Java is complaining that I will not do it because there is going to be a loss of data. So this is all about the integer literals. The other part is the integer can also be assigned to the character. So suppose if you create a character variable, let's go here and let's create a character variable and say char. So data type is char, and let me say z is equal to 65. And if I try to print the value of z here, what will be the answer? So if I run this now, and yesterday I've already shown you 65 is capital A, it's going to get it. So even though it was a character, I have assigned a integer literal to it, it's going to be A here. Now the next question for those who are really interested in knowing the other thing, and that is, can you do this as an octal? So can you start with the 065? So can you store it? What will be the value? Now if I run it, it's going to be something different because it's an octal number. It is not 65 of decimal, it is 65 of octal. So it's going to be something different. Now can I do it? The next part is, can I do this one as 0? Where is that 0 gone? 0x65. That means I'm trying to do a hexadecimal, I mean value to the character, and you know very well that it is going to be something, so you can assign it. It's not that you have to just assign a number. What is the, for those who got confused, what's the general way of doing assigning something to a character? Generally, in order to assign some value to a character variable, you will assign a character, any symbol for that matter, inside a single quote. But you can also do the same thing with, if you know it, the integer equivalent of it, it's going to store it. Okay, so let's go back to our next part. The next part is floating point literals. Now floating point literals are the literals with fractions inside it. So how do you represent a floating point? There are two ways in which you can represent a floating point, either using the standard notation or using the scientific notation. I have talked about it in the previous class, so I will not consume your additional data by explaining it to you one more time. So let's go ahead and let's quickly look at how we can get this thing done. I'm going to go and delete the previous variables that I have. I'm going to say a float x equal to 10.6. So what is the value over here? Now if you notice over here, it just says that, oh no, I can't take 10.6. What is the problem? By default, whenever you type a floating point literal, it is assumed to be double. So you know very well this is a floating point number, which in your C program or C++ you would have easily stored this in a float, but Java says I can't do it. The reason I can't do it is I think that it is double. So Java assumes, Java says that no, I think this is a double value, and you are trying to store a double into a double precision into a single precision, and there could be a loss of float when you try to convert from a double to a float. Now how do I convince Java that no, this is a floating point number? Is you just put f in front of it. So whenever I put f in front of it, either capital or small case, you can do both the ways, either this way, capital or small case. It's going to say that it is a float. Now let me go back here and let me just put x here, and if I run it, I must get the answer because it's going to go, and it is going to be 10.6 as usual, the value that it is trying to store. Again, what about the scientific notation? Again, I will put this f here because I am using the float there. Let me put a scientific notation. 10 e say 5, whatever it is, let's say. This is a floating point number. Again, it is just to read this one as 10e5, 10 to the power 5. Let me make it as smaller because you may get confused. 10 to the power 2. You know what is the answer. So this float, I am putting f here because Java thinks, even if I write like this, Java thinks that this is a double precision value. So just to convince Java that this is a floating point number, I am just putting f in front of it. So let me run it, and you know very well it went okay, 10 followed by two zeros. So this is what it's going to come. So this is the answer that you have, I think. Anyway, so you have the answer. You can represent it in the exponential form, and or you can represent in the standard form. And for those, again, those who have not watched my video in the last class, the e that you see over here, these are e that you see here, they are nothing but power, 10 to the power, the value that is being stored up. Now let's go ahead with the other uh, literals that we have. Next one is, again, I think I've already talked about it, a floating point number. Whenever you use the floating point, default Java assumes that it is a double precision number. In order to convince Java that it is a single precision floating point number, just put either capital F or small case. Again, in order to convince Java that it is a double precision value, you can put D or small or capital D in front of it, but that's not required, because by default Java thinks that it is a double precision number. You are again telling the Java that no, you consider it as double precision value, when Java already knows that it is a double precision value. Okay, again, for those who didn't get what I'm talking about, is I'm just saying that, suppose, let me zoom it for you. Suppose you have double x here. Now if you write like this, Java knows that it is a double precision value. Java will not complain, because by default, whenever you write a floating point number like this, 10.2, 10.3 or anything, Java thinks that this is a double precision number. Java assumes it. Now, in order to make very sure, some people are there who wants to make it 100% sure that Java will not mistreat it. You can just say that it is D. Now, what is this D? It is not hexadecimal or something. This D I am putting is because I am just telling the Java that this D is for double precision number. Whether you put it or not, Java knows that it is going to be a double, and there is no complaint this time, because the value that in which it is trying to store is a double. So that's the reason there is no problem. Let's go ahead and let's go to the next part, and that is Boolean literals. Now Boolean literals are nothing but they are logical values, and you know very well, in Boolean there are two logical values are there. One is true, the other one is the false. True means true. It does not mean one in your digital logic. It used to, people used to say true means one, false means zero. Here true means true, false means false. It is not one, it is not zero, it is not 0.5, it is not one, something of that type. So when you say true, Java does not assumes it to be one, or when you say false, Java does not assumes it to be zero. Very, very important thing. So Java, true means true, false means false. So there is nothing of that type. Now you can use it in your expression, just because, even though I have not talked about the operators, but you can do that thing. Let me create a Boolean variable called as ex, and I can assign true to x. That's the only thing I can do it, and then run it. Then, because x is true here, so let's look at what it has done. X is true here, and I'm printing the value of x, and the output that you see over here is true. So this is true because you have assigned true. That is why it is true. Okay, if you assign false here, you can get the output as false. Now, let's go and let's look at something different here. What if you try to assign a 1 here? What will happen? If you try to assign, I'm going to just pull it out, 1 here, and the minute you do it, Java will complain and say that int cannot be converted into Boolean. So you can notice here, if I just keep it over here, and it just says that 1 is an integer. I know that Java says 1 is an integer literal. I will not convert it into Boolean value. So it is, you tell me what is true or false, not 1 or 0. I can't take it. So even if you put the 0, Java says that I will not do the conversion. Next one is, can I say 10 is greater than 5? This is valid. That reason is, when if you evaluate this 10 greater than 5, the answer of it is true. So 10 is greater than 5, obvious. Let me run it, and what's the output I'm going to get? Now if you look at the output, you will notice here the output here is true because 10 is greater than 5. Is if I write 10 is less than 5, so this is one more operator. Hope you know that these operators, greater than, less than. So if I run it, is 10 less than 5? The answer is false. 10 is not less than 5. You get the answer as false. So it's simple as that. You can either assign true or false, or you can assign an expression which turns out to be true or false. It's one and the same, but it should be a Boolean. Let's go to the next literals, and that is the character literals. And you know very well, character literals are nothing but Unicode literals that you can always use it in your program. So in order for you to represent a character literals, you just put these values in the single quote and then use it. So let's go ahead and let's do that thing. I'm going to go to my NetBeans again, and where is my NetBeans? Okay, I'm going to just create a character literal. So I'm using the variable x here because there is a printf statement, printline statement, which has x here. So character a, and if you run it, you know very well, it's going to go here. Okay, now very important, even though x is a integer, now because you studied C program, hope you have not forgotten C program. Can I do, remember, this is a character value, and you know that value of a is 65. Can I add 3 to that 65? And so if you add 65, it becomes 68. So it becomes, is it becomes C, D, E. Can I do that thing? So if you notice over here, Java says that no, you try to do it, it's not going to, you are using an integer calculation, it may create some problem. So like your C program, or like your Boolean expression, where I just used an operator, like say the Boolean operation I did is 10 greater than 5. Just recall this one. So can I do the same thing here? So can I write a plus b? Oops, a plus b. Can I do this? So what is a plus b? What is the answer of a plus? If you add a and b, what will be the answer of that? So if you try to add that a plus b, you get some answer. And what is the answer? It is not C. Just to tell you that, it simply added two integer equivalent of that value and did something. So don't expect that if you add a plus b, it is going to become C again. If you add capital A with the small a, what is the answer of that? So answer of this, it will do the calculation, but the answer that you are going to get is going to be something very strange. Okay, so you can do the integer calculation. Okay. Also, you can convert the numerical equivalent of the the integer value of these literals that I have already shown you. So instead of a, I have assigned it as 65. So you can do that. There is nothing wrong in that, and you can do the once you have the integer value, you can treat it like integer and then do the manipulation. However, you know very well when you try to manipulate something in the integer format, it will do the integer additions and subtraction and so on. You need to typecast it in order for it to use it as a character. Let's go ahead with the other part about character literals. Now, when we talk about characters, characters could be all the symbols that you can think of using from A to Z, small case or capital, from plus, minus, or at symbol or any other symbol. And also, I have shown you the ASCII table in the previous class. There are 0 to 31 ASCII values which are non-printable, which you can't see on the screen, but they are used to give some commands to the printer or to the any output devices. Now, in order for you to use them, they are also called as control character. In order for you to use that control character, you can use the escape sequence, and like your C program, escape sequence starts with the backward slash. So let's look at that in action. Let's go here and let me try to print something. So if you want to go to the next line, so what you can do it, you know very well, you can use /n. Now I'm going to use this one, and I'm going to say slightly manipulate this. This is line 1 plus this is line 2. How is it going to appear? Now, if you run it, you notice that both of them came in two separate lines. What is the reason? The reason is very obvious, and the reason happens to be this particular part is /n here, and you know very well when you put /n, it means a new line. So you are putting the /n at this place, and so this is going to become in one line. /n means new line. It will go to the next line and print it. That's what you're going to see. Both of them will appear in two lines. Now let's look at something else here. Now I'm going to go here and make it as /b. So this is /b, and let me run it and see what's going to happen. So what has happened here? Now if you look at this place, let me zoom it. Okay, so this one is there, one followed by this is line 1, the next one is this is line 2. But what happened here? If you look at the output, so in the output you notice a strange thing. So if you look at this, this is 1. Look at this, ONE is there, and here that E is missing. So this is on, then this is line 2, next one is coming. So you look at here that E is gone. Why E is gone? Because you know very well the /b refers to backspace. So you know very well if your cursor is here and if you put the backspace, it's going to delete that character. So that's what it has done. It has deleted that character, and then the next line is going to come. Let's look at the other one, and I am going to just do this line. I'm going to just change this line. Okay, and I'm going to say GFGC. Simply I'll put that thing, and I'm going to put /r here, So what is the use of that slash r? Let me run it and let me show you what it has done. So what it has done is it has just printed gfgc. What is the reason? Okay, slash r refers to carriage return. So what it actually did when you printed is, it first printed this line, that is, this is line 1. It printed, so up to here it printed that thing. After that, x means, so it was here. Now after printing it, the cursor will come here. After printing this line, the cursor will come here. So this slash r means bring the cursor to the first position. So return the carriage, that's the meaning of it. So carriage return, so it's going to come to the first place here. From this place, it will now print. Remember, it has brought this whole carriage. That means that this whole sentence is gone. It's going to print GFGC. So when it brings, it's going to erase everything. And then from the beginning, it's going to type GFGC. And that's the reason you will see in the output, you will see that it has just printed GFGC. The first one is gone. So it will print up to here, then carriage return, it will come back, and then on top it will start printing the next one. That's carriage return. Again, if you want to type like this, suppose if you want to type 10 by 5, so I'm going to just put that thing over here. So if you want to put 10 by 5, so you want to put that symbol, that is division symbol, or not this division symbol, like this. If you want this slash, okay, that modulo division or kind of thing. If you want to do that thing, so let me put that thing. So instead of this, I want the slash to come. So if you want the slash to appear, put double slashes. So one of the slash will appear. Now if you run it, you will see the output as 10. That slash is, did I miss that x there? So let me put that x here. I missed that x altogether. So now let me run it, and now you will see the slash here. Now you notice the slash here. So you see that slash, even though you have put two slashes, one of them will come. What is the reason? You know very well. The first slash is the escape sequence, so that is the escape, followed by the second slash that you have. So this way you can do a lot of things. Like previously said, you can always use octal notation. Suppose if you want to use the octal notation, use slash followed by 3 letters. Okay. If you want to use hexadecimal, this was shown in the previous class. Start with the slash and the u followed by 4 letters. Okay, so if you write slash followed by 3 letters, not this one. Remember, 9 is not an octal. Be careful with that. So this one is a octal number. This is 4 letters which are not allowed. So only 3 letters are allowed. 3 digits are allowed. So the 4 letters are not allowed. So you can have only 3. Again, if you want to write a hexadecimal value, so how do you go about it? You just start with the slash u followed by 4 letters. So this is going to be the hexadecimal value. Hope you are familiar with that. I will not give one more demonstration on that. Let's go ahead and let's look at the various literals that you can have over here. So the first one is the slash followed by 3 digits, any 3 numbers. So it's going to be octal. If you have a slash followed by u and 4 letters, it's going to be hexadecimal Unicode character. Then we have the single quote. If you want to get the single quote, use a slash followed by single dot. If you want a double quote, slash followed by double quotes. And For backslash, you use the double carriage return, new line, form feed, backspace, and tab. Now, for those who are not familiar with the form feed, now in the printer you have one page. So a printer will start printing, and when it goes to the next line, the last line of the page in the printer, not on the screen, it will skip that page, it will eject that page, and next page will come. Now, how do you tell the printer that eject the page? So after typing 3 lines, I want to tell the printer that eject the page and start in a fresh page. How do I do that? Is I give this command, that is /f. If you tell the /f, if you give that command to the printer /f, whenever that /f is encountered, printer will simply give a form feed. The full page is called as a form. So wherever that /f appears, it means to say that this page is over, go to the next page. So printer will put it in one page. So can I do that demonstration in my screen? So if you want to ask that question, can you do that thing in your this one? So if you put /f here, and again I'm going to say this is first page, okay, and I'm going to go and say that this is second page. Oops, second page. Now remember, this x is the x that I'm using, variable x I'm using here is /f. So can I use that thing, and if I run it, will it show it in 2 pages? The answer is it tried to show, and it just said that yeah, I will eject one page. Here you are showing it in a monitor, so I will not do that. For that /f is, this is the symbol. So it just says this is how it goes. It will eject one page and do it. In the screen you can't eject one page, so it will come in the same page. Okay, for those who had that confusion. And again, hope you know what is this meaning of this one. Okay, so it means to say that you are putting it in a single quote. Just to tell you again, for those who are not really aware of it, so suppose if I go here, so where is this? Instead of this, I put one more. So look at, read this whole thing. So you are putting slash followed by one quote. So I'm going to put like this, say GFGC. I'm going to put that thing, and look at what I'm doing. I'm going to just remove this also. So I start with x plus that. So I start with the x. That means this symbol will come first. Write something. T is not required. Sorry. And GFGC followed by the same symbol. That is this. So how is it going to appear now? Let me zoom out, and then I'm going to show you the answer, and you notice what it has done. So let's look at the output over here and what it has done. So this, it has read only this part. So concentrate on this part. So slash means escape character followed by single quote. So you notice that the single quote has come here, and you see there, and then you have this GFGC as usual. That GFGC as usual followed by slash means backslash means escape sequence followed by that one symbol, and that is what is appearing over here. So this is what you see. So here now you see that you have single quote on 2 sides. So can I put the double quotes? Instead of this, can I put double quotes? Let me do that thing. So can I put double quotes here? What will happen in that case? So let me run that, and you notice I did not have to tell you what you are going to see. So you are going to see, starting with the double quotes, GFGC and double quotes. So what does this mean? It simply means to say that you have slash followed by a double quote. And what is the meaning of slash? Slash means escape sequence followed by double quotes. That is why it starts with the double quotes, then GFGC as usual, then again double quotes. So as simple as that. Hope you get how it is working. Let's go ahead with the PowerPoint now. The last part is the string literals, and string literals are nothing but the text that I've been typing from that point. So whenever you write any text in double quotes, it assumes that text to be string. So anything that is written between double quotes is assumed to be a text. Very, very important, because some of you are studying the Python or maybe the PHP and other. In PHP and other, there is a way in which you can have more than one line. So for example, you can have this, you can start the double quotes from here and go one full line and take it to the next line and put the double quotes. So you can, that means to say that string will extend over two lines, but usually that's not allowed in Java. So you might have the string in the same line. If it goes to the next line, you will have the problem. And for all the remaining control characters, whatever the character literals that you are using, that is valid even for the string. Again, I will not show you the additional demonstration on this. Let's go ahead to the next interesting part, and that is the variable. So what is a variable? Variable is a place wherein you try to store a value. That is it. So it is a name given to a storage location, usually in the RAM. So in other words, variable is nothing but it's a basic unit of storage. So the value that you store, whatever value you give, that will be stored somewhere in the memory. That memory is given some name, and that name is nothing but a variable. So how do you create a variable? I have done it unknowingly. You are familiar with creating variables, but still, the variable can be created by the combination of three things. One is the identifier, next one is the type, third one is actually an optional, an initializer. Apart from this, a variable has a scope. So the scope says where that variable is visible, in other words, where I can use that, and how long that variable will survive. So what is the meaning of it is, suppose if I create int x, this is simple as your C program. In C program, we were not really interested in where this x is declared, except in few cases. So when you declare the variable x here, it has a scope that says where you can use this variable, at which part of your program. So if you have the program, along which part of the program, is it available here, is it available there, is it available somewhere else. So where can you use this variable? That is nothing but the visibility. Whether the variable is visible, x variable is visible here, whether it is visible here or whether it is visible here. When I say there are different blocks are there, different blocks of code is there, whether it is available at different blocks, that is decided by the scope, and how long this variable is going to survive, whether this variable will be there till the end of the program, or whether this variable is wiped out when the function is executed or when some part of the program gets executed. So this is called as a lifetime. How long this variable is going to survive, that is decided by the where you declare the variable. Now let's look at how a variable can be declared. To declare a variable, you have to use the type that you are using, that the data type. followed by the identifier. So identifier is the name of the variable that you give, and optionally you can assign the value. Very, very important thing. Unlike your Python or other PHP and other, you can't simply create a variable without declaring it. You have to declare a variable. So there are some programming languages are there wherein you just say x is equal to 10. The programming language assumes that x is an integer and it creates a variable for you. So even though you have not said integer, float or anything, it simply does that thing. So it's a good thing in those programming language. However, Java does not do that. In Java, you have to say what is x. Before you start using a variable, you have to tell the Java that this variable exists. So how do you create a variable? To create a variable, you first give the data type. The type could be int, it could be a float. You have seen this thing, float, the different data types, double, Boolean, or anything. So this type could be anything. You can specify the data type. So it could be any atomic type. Apart from this, type can be even class or interface. Now, for those who are not familiar what is class and interface, I have not talked about class and interfaces. I will come back to these two things, what is class and interface, during the other time of the course. In the other videos, I am going to tell you what is a class and interface. As of now, just take it, the instead of float, instead of double, it could be something like student. Yes, where a student could be an interface or it could be a class. Okay, it is simple as that. We will talk about that in the other classes. As of now, please excuse me. Now, next part is the identifier. Identifier is the name that is given to the variable, and the names that you give to the variable, they are same as that of your C programming language. So you can't have special characters and so on and so forth. I will not venture into that. It's the name of the variable. Identifier is the name of the variable, followed by optionally you can assign a value. Again, some of you are not familiar with the way in which the syntax has to be read. So this is called as syntax. So whenever we say that this is a syntax. Now when you read the syntax, be careful with that. So here you notice that a type is declared. That means it is required. Type is required. Identifier is required. Now what is written in these square brackets in the syntax representation, these are optional. You can use it or you can leave them. This is not going to affect. However, the last semicolon, you notice here, there is a semicolon here. This semicolon is required. So what is required? Type is required, identifier is required, and the semicolon is required. These are what is written here. It is optional. Whether you want, you use it, or you don't want, you don't use it. Okay, so as simple as that. For example, let me give you an example. So I say type is int, it's a data type. Identifier is x, I can put the semicolon. So the syntax is valid. Type is required, identifier is required, semicolon is required. So the syntax is valid. I can also write like this. So let me write the other way around. Int, same thing, x. Now this is optional. Whether you want, you can write it. However, if you are writing it, this whole thing has to be written. That is equal to, so it has to come equal to followed by a number, okay, followed by a value, any value which is valid definitely, and the last part which is non-optional, which is a mandatory, semicolon. So you can write that. So this is valid. And you have one more. Again, this whole thing is optional. So what is the meaning of it? So you can start, again, let me clear everything. You can start with the int, which is a type. So notice this is a type. Next one, x, you can do that. Then equal to 10, that's a value. Okay. After that, you notice that if you want to extend, if you don't want to put the semicolon, next thing that must come is the semicolon. So that you notice here, next one is the semicolon, followed by one more identifier. Let me say y. It's an identifier, same as the identifier. Then followed by, if you want, you can just stop and put the semicolon. It's because this part is optional again. So you can say int x equal to 10, then y semicolon. This is valid. The last way in which you can do it is you start over again, int, which is the identifier, x, which is int is a data type, x is an identifier. Then you have equal to 10, that's a value. You notice that. Okay. Then comma, then y. Now if you want, you can use the other optional thing. So y equal to 20. Again, if you want, you can repeat this whole thing. So that's the meaning of it. You see that bracket, it starts from here to here, and you can repeat it. So what is the meaning of it? You can go here and put one more semicolon, z equal to 50. You can do it, nobody will complain it. And k, you can declare it. L, you can declare it. You have to just put a semicolon and identify. Value is again optional. Then you can say m equal to 300. You can do it. So this is how you can declare variable. Hope you get the idea. So if when you want to create the identifier, you can just create an identifier, or optionally you can initialize it. This is called as giving a first value or initializing it. So optionally you can initialize it. So variables can be initialized by specifying equal sign and a value, equal sign and a value. And I've already told you, you can declare more than one variable provided you separate them with a comma. So as simple as that. Next one is other part of the variable. Variables can also be initialized with a literals, which you are already seen, or you can initialize it dynamically. When the program runs dynamically, the value is assigned. So here you notice that this is a function. Hope everybody has used square root function in your C program. So that's the function. Hope everybody has used this one, sqrt function. And where do you get in C? In C, you have to say include math.h, or if you are using Linux, I think you have something else to be done. But I think most of you were using Windows, so you have to include this. So it is under math, and somehow it is not perfect to say that it is the same thing, but I have not explained about packages and so on. So I am just giving an analogy. Is kind of similar to how you include math.h. This is similar to it, it is not equal to it. So don't take it, they are same. It is not same. It is somewhat similar. This is a way how you do it. Okay. So it's a maths function, and this function will run with the value of b and a, and it will produce the result, and it's going to store it. So this is dynamical assignment. So in other words, when you use the literal, that means you are giving the value, and you are giving the value. Whereas here you are telling the Java that you do this calculation, you get a value, and then store it here. So this is called as dynamic initialization. You can do that thing. Now let's come to the scope. I will not talk about the scope and visibility very much here, because some of you are familiar, like private, public kind of scopes. But let's look at the scope, a brief idea about how the scope works. So scope refers to the visible, whether the program is visible in the other part, as well as the lifetime, how long that variable is available. Now, whenever we say scope, we actually assume that within the flower bracket where that variable is declared. So when you create, let me go to the my NetBeans. There is my NetBeans. Okay, my NetBeans is here. So when you look at this NetBeans, you see that you write most of the time you write something in a block. You see that NetBeans is highlighting this open flower bracket and closing flower bracket. So this part from here to here, it is one block. Now if you click at this flower bracket, this is one block. So NetBeans, the Java, it is not just the NetBeans. The Java things are written in one block. So this is one block because it is between one flower bracket here and the other flower bracket here. This is the other block. Okay, because there is one flower bracket here and the other flower bracket here. Now scope refers to, so you notice that I have declared a variable here. So this variable is within this scope, as simple as that. It's not available outside. So let me show you a simple example. If you start something in a flower bracket, let me put this inside a flower bracket. Simply I put a flower bracket. Remember, this is called as a block. I created a block. Suppose if you write something in a flower bracket, I created a block. So here notice that what has happened. This is one block. You see that this is one block. Surrounding it, there is the other block. Why? Because there is this flower bracket. Why there is a block? Because there is this flower bracket. There is one more. This is the third block. So one block inside the other. So you know that it is called nested. You have this nested block. Now the X that is declared here lives only within this block. It will not be available here, nor it will be available here. That is why if you carefully look at your program now, the Java simply complains and says, what is X? What do you mean by X? I can't find that X here. What is the reason why X is here only? You may say to the Java, X is, can't you see the X is here? Why can't you just use the X? The problem why it can't use the X is that X is not in the scope. X is within the scope of this block, and it is not available outside that block. Why this is block? Because I put a flower bracket. Can you see this? Open flower bracket and close flower bracket. So within this open and close flower bracket, whatever you write, that is one block. So now the Java is saying that the scope of X, or X is restricted to this block alone, and I cannot get the value of X outside this block. In other words, when this block, you start the block here, open flower bracket, and you do something, and when the closing flower bracket ends, this block is over. When this block is over, the X is destroyed altogether. It will not be available outside. So as simple as that. Now let me take this thing. So you get that thing. Now if I take this X, okay, let me do that thing. So I'm going to put both of them. Look at what I'm doing. If I do this like this, both of them inside. So is it available? The answer is yes. Both are available. What is the reason? This is one block. The whole thing is one block. So X is within the block and it is visible. As simple as that. Hope you get that idea. Now look at what I'm doing. Let me slightly put this one more block here. Just to, I'm not confusing you, I suppose. So now look at here. It is not complaining. It's not saying that no, I can't get the X here. Look at, again, I hope you get what I'm trying to do. So here you look at here, if you didn't get it, this is one block and this is the other block. Now I told you a scope is there within the block. Now this time it is not complaining and saying that I can't get X. There is no underline here. The reason is when you declare something outside. Now you look at this particular block. Let me highlight it with a different color so that this is one block. Hope you get that. And this is the other block. So this is the outside block and this is inside. This block, this pink box is block is inside a red block. So this is an inner block. Variable that is declared in the outer block, so you notice this is an outer block, is always available to the inner block. So when you declare a variable outside this block, okay, that is available to the nested or inner block, but a variable that is declared inside inner block is not available outside. So remember that thing. Again, if you really didn't get it, let me tell you. Suppose if you have a block, and by the way, how do you create a block? By putting a flower bracket and ending it with the flower bracket. In between, what can come? Anything, any Java statement can come. So anything you write in between is considered, between the flower bracket is considered to be one block. Okay. So inside this, suppose if you create one more block, how can I create one more block? Put one more flower bracket. So this is one more block. A block inside, the outside you have a bigger block. A block inside the one other block is called as an inner block. So this inner block, you see there, this inner block. So this inner block can access the variable that is declared in the outer block. So this variable is available. That is what is the meaning of saying scope. Scope means where that variable can be used. Any variable that is declared in the outer block is available in the inner block. However, any variable that is declared in the inner block, suppose if you declare a variable in the inner block, that will not be available to the outer block. Hope you get it. So a variable that is declared in the outer block is available in the inner block, but a variable that is declared in the inner block is not available to the outer block. Hope you get the idea about that. Okay, so let's go ahead with the PowerPoint. So when we talk about the blocks, the scope, there are two types of scopes that are available in Java. One is the scope that is declared with respect to the class, the other one with respect to the method. Now I have not talked much about the classes and objects. So I will not venture much about this class level scopes. I will talk about it in the other classes. But for the method, it is simple. So for the method, let's look at what are the scopes that are available. So before that, what is a scope? Scope is nothing but it is written within the two curly brackets. Okay. Whenever you declare a function, like if you write sqrt, hope you have done this one in your C program. Now this variable x here is within the scope of the square root function. So as simple as that. Okay. And also I have already told you the inside scope variable that is declared within the inner scope is not available to the outside, but outside is available to the inner one. So again, nesting, what is the meaning of saying nesting? Nesting is nothing but you are putting one scope inside the other scope, and I've talked about it. The outer scope encloses the inner scope. That means to say that the object or variable declared in the outer scope, that is the outer block, is available to the inner, but the reverse is not true. That means what is declared inside is not available to the outside, but what is declared outside is available for the inside scope. Now let's look at the array. I think we will look at the array in the next class. We will stop our class today. Thank you for your patience, and we will meet again in the next class. Thank you.